the importance of time and to keep things quick. So who am I and why am I here? I moved to San Francisco 20 years ago in '94. At that time, I was working for an international management consulting firm, McKinsey & Company. Then I worked for a few years for a global reputation management firm, Burson Marsteller, and then I started teaching at the business school at Stanford, at the business school at USF, and right now at the business school at Hult. And I also launched my consulting business, and right now I am the Chief Marketing Officer of M31 USA. So why do I mention this? Because 20 years ago, I was in your seat. I was thinking, what's a big deal about moving to the US? You know, we are all well-educated, we speak English, well-traveled, maybe you did business abroad in Europe or in other parts of the world. It's going to be the same, right? No, wrong. In the 20 years I've been here, if there's one thing I understood is that the cultural differences are profound. Even though you may speak English fluently, you may have come here on vacation, on business, you may have lived in Australia or in Britain for that matter, it's a different game here. So what are the rules of the game? The rules of the game significantly impact the way you communicate here. And that's what I'm an expert on, Communicating the American Way. That's my book, and that's kind of some pills out of this book is what I'm going to distill today. So what are the main cultural differences and why do they matter to you? I'd say the main cultural differences are time, thinking patterns, and communication patterns. Time. You just saw it today, 15 minutes per speaker. On Thursday, there's going to be an event at Plug and Play with Viet, 2 minutes per speaker. And a lot of our clients, I'm working with M31, a lot of our clients, a lot of my students say, oh, that doesn't do it justice to my company. It's a complex topic. Well, you know what? If you want to play the game, play by the rules. You got 2 minutes. Why? People are always busy here. They're in a rush. And if they are not, they pretend to be. So I have a friend who was unemployed for 2 years. Whenever I tried to make a lunch appointment with her, she was busy. And I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, you're unemployed. Why don't you just take lunch at the last minute? No, I've got my yoga, I've got my gym, I've got my movie. So people fill out their calendar. So that's because they subscribe to a concept of time that's called linear concept of time. You do one thing at a time, you focus on the task, you get it done, you move on quickly to the next thing. We Italians subscribe to the concept of time that's called multi-active concept of time. So you do millions of things at the same time, and the meeting runs late, and the meeting runs late, but the other one starts late, so it's not a big deal. It is a big deal here. And it's not just about showing up on time at meetings. That's kind of like the minimum common denominator. By the way, you're going to notice me looking at my watch because I've got to keep to 15 minutes. So that's the minimum common denominator. What really matters is if you say you're going to sign a contract by Friday, you sign a contract by Friday. If you wait until Monday, you may be out of the game. If you say your product release is going to be December 1st, it's going to have to be December 1st. If it's December 2nd, it reflects on your credibility. So concept of time and the idea of the speed to action, much stricter here. Case in point, we're dealing with a client today who didn't understand why we have to produce a certain collateral by tomorrow. Why the rush? Because we need it tomorrow. And we don't have the luxury of time of a million reviews. We need it tomorrow. Get over it. If you don't want to have it tomorrow, you're missing an opportunity. You're creating a problem, by the way, as Alberto said. So, concept of time is a fundamental shift in your mindset. Thinking patterns. What matters here is the bottom line. So, whenever this, and it's linked to the concept of time, people don't have time to listen to you for 10 minutes. Be sure you say your bottom line in your first 30 seconds, 60 seconds at the most. Studies show that, at least in the US, first impressions are made within 60 seconds. If you are not to the point, if you are not successful, succinct and brief, you are going to lose your audience. And this has a fundamental impact in the way you present yourself and you present your company. So if I have to go back and look at the company descriptions before, my suggestion, you may not like it, throw them away, start from scratch. So think about writing them in 2 lines. Not 2 sentences, 2 lines. Think about the famous business card rule. Take out your business card. Write what your business does on the back of your business card in legible print. You have to be able to read it. If you can't, you don't have a business that can compete in the US. You may have a business that can compete in the US, but it's not going to compete unless you simplify and focus what it does and make it really explicit. You may not like it, but I spend my professional life advising companies on how they can and they should synthesize what they say. So, case in point, are you all familiar with the company Salesforce? Right? Are you familiar with the company CRM, Sugar CRM? Okay, so kind of like it's lower end version of Salesforce, or at least that's how it started. So the first pitch was 3 sentences long. The final version with which they went to the market was, we are Salesforce.com at 1/10 of the cost. Yesterday, I was advising one of my students at Health who is launching wants to launch a new business in the rental market, apartment rental market. Half a page of explanation. Result of a brainstorming session, we are like eBay for rentals. That's what you have to do for your own company. Find a metaphor, find a known company, brand name, activity, find something people can grab onto, something that's known in the US, not on the moon, not in Italy, in the US, and use it as a metaphor, as an anchoring point to craft what your company does. I always hear, you know, my company, we can do everything. Like we can do this way and that way. It doesn't work this way. The more you focus, the clearer it is, the bigger is your shot at success in the US. Third big cultural difference, communication patterns. The US is a so-called low context world, where what you say is what you mean. Lots of parts of Europe, not all of Europe, but lots of parts of Europe, including Italy, is a so-called high context world, where what you mean is not just what you say, but it highly depends on the context and on how you say it and on when you say it. So if you're going to say, well, yes, I think we will deliver the software or release the software on December 1. I think we will deliver it. I understand based on your tone of voice, on your expression, on your body language, whether that's likely or not, and I factor that into my planning. If you say here, I'm going to deliver on December 1st, that's what it is. And you may have suggested in a million different ways that it was unlikely, but that's what you said, that's what counts. And so that kind of goes back to contracts. Everything is spelled out very clearly in contracts, and that's what you go back to. You cannot say, the situation has changed, or, well, it's not fair, we didn't expect this. That's what you said, that's what you committed. Why? It goes back to this basic fundamental difference between low context and high context. It's what versus how, fundamentally. So in my experience, these are the 3 main differences. Think about how you spend your time and how you optimize your time, and most of all, how you optimize the use of time of your counterpart. In the US, the expression is time is money. Do we have that expression in Italy? Time is an asset that has to be efficiently managed here. Thinking patterns. Boil down to one main point, one main message in 30 seconds. That's your pitch, your personal pitch. So when you go to the meeting at plug and play tomorrow night. When you go to M31 on Friday, hopefully you will have made that exercise already and be able to articulate who you are and what you do in 30 seconds. Homework for tonight. Okay. And then communication, what you say, just like Bush famously said, when I say, I mean what I say. I mean what I say. So you may argue with the richness of vocabulary, but the point is very true. Now, underlying all of this, there is another big difference for us Italians, the concept of power. It's not like power doesn't exist here. Of course, seniority and hierarchy can exist. Of course, you know, if you are John Burr or Kleiner Perkins, your voice is more, it certainly carries louder than the first-year associate at Kleiner Perkins. But how do they sit around the table? Where do they park their car? What kind of offices do they have? Power here. Are they going to wear a jacket, or are they both going to be, you know, in shirt sleeves? Why am I even saying it? Who goes to get the coffee? Why am I saying this? This power is under the surface here. It's not over the surface and very, very apparent as it is in Italy, where just by the title, aren't we all doctors? Exactly. The seat arrangements, the dress code, and all of these, you kind of get an idea immediately. You don't here. Case in point, startuppers. Okay, so how do these main cultural differences translate into typical pitfalls for Italian companies? This is what I have observed. Most Italian companies underestimate the competition. The thing that I see the most is, well, we are unique in this space. Really? If you are, there's somebody in adjacent space. And in my experience, it's very rare that you are unique. There is no free lunch, really, for anybody. So do a hard, and you're less credible if you say you're unique. Because come on, where do you live, on the moon? In this world, everybody has a certain, either if not competitors, collaborators, somebody in an adjacent space. The other big frequent pitfall, is to underestimate the opportunity. As Alberto eloquently said, there are no problems, there are opportunities. And what is the difference here in the United States is that frequently that one opportunity, that one first opportunity is your one shot. I can't go to that trade show because we don't have enough time to prepare. That's your one shot. It doesn't mean that you don't prepare well. It means that you actually, speed of action, have to compress the timeline. If you mess up your first one, your one shot, the effort it takes to recover is so huge that you don't want to really go there. Think of opportunities as one shot. While there is tolerance for failure in general for entrepreneurs, there's very little tolerance for mediocrity, for mediocre jobs here in Silicon Valley. Because if we all think that we are on top of the world in Italy, because again we are, top levels of education, top levels of employment, etc., it's a much bigger pond here, and nobody's a goldfish here. The other big mistake that I see, I wouldn't say big mistake, but common pitfall, is the tendency to underinvest and to consider that results are going to be commensurate to input, to investment. There is a threshold underneath which you don't get any results. So if you underinvest, you don't get commensurate results. You get no results at all. So that's my 20 years in the States, working in the business world, straddling academia, straddling the US and Europe, advising companies between the two worlds. There's a lot in common, but there's a lot of differences. And language proficiency shouldn't lead you into a false sense of security that it's going to be an easy game. It may be a very exciting game, but it's certainly a difficult game, and you want to know the rules. Okay.